we had a bit of updates here, courtesy of Vlad Jr. himself, who went on a podcast in his native Dominican Republic and spoke about the situation very openly in a way that you basically never hear, right? Like, I would say 98% of extension discourse is, we're going to keep that private, or that doesn't benefit me, or like either from the team or player side, like that's between us and whatever. Vlad's like, here's what's going on.
I've often said that Vladdy could never be a major league manager because he wants to challenge every play. Now we can also cross off GM because he just leaks everything. So it's a good thing he's a great player.
Okay. So he is a great player. So Ben, what did we learn? What did we learn from this podcast appearance? That is relevant, and I think even with all of their failed pursuits of top free agents, this is still the most important thing for the Toronto Blue Jays for the next month plus. So let's talk about it. Where are we at?
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, this is the decision negotiation that will impact the next 10 years of this franchise, one way or the other. He's the best player, and he's about to be a free agent. So. It was very interesting to hear this interview with Abriendo Sports and see it too, right? You can watch the video clip and see him discussing this. He shared a lot of info about where he's at as far as extension talks. The talks are ongoing, he said. He said that there's a deadline in place, which will be the first day the pitchers and catchers report for a full workout in Dunedin, Florida, coming up in February. So that gives the Blue Jays about 6 weeks time to get an extension done, or he's going to hit the open market and be a free agent, listen to offers from all 30 teams this coming fall. So that's the timeline that's in place. That's new information that was not out there publicly until Vladdy said this on the interview. He also said that they had offered him $150 million a few years ago. That didn't get it done. He said that there was a $340 million offer in that neighborhood, he said, that had occurred in the course of this offseason. That's believed to be before the Soto deal for 765. So clearly talks are ongoing. Clearly that number is over 340. I think that's pretty obvious given that he declined that. And we'll see where it would have to land, right? This is really the interesting discussion, but the stakes are super high for the Blue Jays, more so than for Vlad Jr. I mean, they're high for him too, because if he goes out there and he has kind of a tepid season, then it's not going to be great for him and he might, not get quite the deal that he's looking for. But end of the day, Jordan, this guy's 25 years old. 25. So he is in a great position to get a massive deal.
This is the other thing about his honesty here, and this extends back just before this offseason, and is also a bit of a difference when we're talking about these situations where players are normally playing it as straight as can be. I'll listen to offers and we'll see where it goes. Do you believe him when he says he wants to be with the Blue Jays? I do, but you would know better than me.
Yeah, I believe it. I think that, I've been around Vladdy his whole career since he signed as an amateur, and certainly his whole major league career in Toronto. He genuinely seems to like playing in Toronto. He seems to enjoy his life, and including being in Toronto. So I think that's true. I will add to that. I sense a comfort if it needs to go down that path, that he would be comfortable hitting free agency too. He's not saying that part,
100%,
but I think he would be comfortable, as he should be.
As he should be. However, I do think that the reason I feel strongly about this, and we could just go back and forth, what's the number? What you have the guy. Like, he's there. You've had him. You've developed him. He's happy. He loves being a Blue Jay. He's been a Blue Jay his whole life. Like, they've spent these last few off seasons chasing these just wild swings, right? I mean, whether it is an Ohtani, whether it is Soto, right? But like, they're trying because they're like, that's the guy. We have to go all in on that. Like, he is worth it. But you already have one of the guys that I believe is worth it to build around as a franchise player. Yes, he's a first baseman. I get that. Yes, he has had some ups and downs. But as you mentioned, he's 25. It's not, to me, like, the situation is right in front of you. Like, you have the franchise player. You have developed him. You have brought him in. You have seen him rise to become one of the best hitters in the world. And he says, there is a way that I can be here forever. I could be the greatest Blue Jay of all time. Like, it's right there. And if you're not able to land these other, to go all to extreme degrees to lure someone to Toronto and they'd be like, oh no, how can we not bring these guys in? He's right there. And I mean, sure, I guess it's unreasonable. We said who would be a bad GM. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to give him whatever he wants. I would be pushing so much harder, and I really hope they do. I've been saying this for like 2 years now. Stop worrying about, just make sure you have this guy in place, because if he's gone, you are in a very dark place as an organization. And while there are still a lot of questions about everything around him, and I'm sure he has those too, there's a number here that will get him to be a Blue Jay for life. And I hope that they get there, because you have the thing, and I don't think you should be overthinking it to that degree. Of course, there's a negotiation involved, and I know it's going to be uncomfortable to go to $500 million. I just feel like if you're already willing to spend it on guys that you don't have as your guy, to me, it's like, come on, let's just do it.
And I don't know that I don't think they would have to get to 500 million. We'll see where that number goes.
Yeah, I'm just throwing. This is not. Yeah, you would know better than me. But sure.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know, but I have certain guesses, obviously. But I think that, to your point, like if he hits free agency and signs with the Giants in a year's time, or signs with the Yankees, right? Whatever the case, all of a sudden, are you looking at a Blue Jays team where the heart of their order is like Will Wagner, Ernie Clement, and Joey Loperfido? Because that's you got to, this is a tough division.
Listen, and I love.
With
Alan
all due
Rodin.
respect to those guys, I'm not trying to dunk on anyone here, but I just mean like Vlad Jr. Like this guy is a different level of offensive producer, and it would be one thing if, like, when Jose Bautista hit free agency after hitting the bat flip, and he was like 34 years old, and it was like, here, he's this iconic part of the franchise history, and should the Jays extend him, pay him what he wants, whatever the case. There was a whole discussion around that at the time. And I get that. And there was a case to be made for signing Bautista and Encarnacion at that time. But we're talking about someone now who's 25 years old. His first season, once he signs his free agent deal, will be age 27. There's so much more prime time left for Vladdy. And there's a downside risk that he becomes Prince Fielder and there's no production after age 27, 28. And of course, that would be horrible. But you have to trust at a certain point, your team of physical therapists and your team of trainers and strength and conditioning people to get the most out of these athletes, and you have to trust the player. And if you don't do that, maybe blow it all up and trade him. But I just, if you trust him at all, like, I think there's a clear path to building around him.
And to me, I think that there is still going to be some level of calculated risk, as I basically have to imagine there isn't literally any extension of this magnitude, whether we're talking about Fernando Tatis Jr. or Julio or Bobby Witt or whatever. Like, some of those extensions immediately look like underpays, and some of them immediately look like overpays, and whatever. That's when you're talking about deals of this magnitude, that's part of it. But as you mentioned, the stakes here for Toronto as an organization are just so massive. And that is where Vladdy's leverage is and where he should keep it. And I just think that, like, you don't have the opportunity to have these guys in the first place, let alone reasonably with a straight face be like, there's an MVP in front of him. Like, that's just not a player you have access to, and he's already on your team and wants to be there.